All right, go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to today's TDM on the Web demo. My name is Adnan Zaidi. I'm one of many members of the Tennis Link team that helps support the USTA with its Tennis Links applications. Today's demo is going to be where you're going to watch my computer screen as I take you through the application. There is anything you're going to need to do on your end besides following the directions that you should have got via automated email with accessing the WebEx. Also sent out a link about an hour ago with some basic ground rules that we're going to follow for this demo. Link for the WebEx is also in the email. If for some reason you can't get the software installed to go ahead and watch the demo online, I still do encourage you to go ahead and listen in. You can still go ahead and gather valuable information just by listening to the demo, but obviously it would be more helpful if you can go ahead and view the visual component as we go through the demo as well. Yeah, we'll go ahead and refer to those directions, and hopefully you can go ahead and view the visual. If not, sign up for another session, and we can go from there, or I can help you on a one-on-one basis offline after this call. Also, for the purposes of this demo, I need everyone to go ahead and mute their own lines. So if you would, go ahead and press *6 on your keypad, and that'll go ahead and mute your own line. All the phones do need to be muted in order to get through all the content that we have for TDM on the web. It takes about 45 to 50 minutes, at which point then we have time left over. We go ahead and go into a question and answer session. So as we go through the demo, please go ahead and jot down any questions you might have, and we can go ahead and tackle them at the appropriate time. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and mute all the lines centrally, and then we're going to go ahead and carry on with our demo. Give me one moment.
Has muted your line. To unmute your line, press #6.
Okay, so TDM on the web, what is it? When is it coming out? How can I use it? These are all the types of questions that we get on a frequent basis about the program. What TDM on the web is a product that is eventually going to replace the current day TDM desktop application. So if you've ever run USTA tournaments in the past, you've used a product called TDM. Was only available on Windows operating systems, and it's something you need to go ahead and install on your computer. So if you ever needed to use TDM, you had to lug your computer around, or sometimes the installation was a little bit messy based upon various security protocols at clubs and whatnot. So what USTA decided to do is bring the TDM experience online, basically bringing it to the web. And that's what TDM on the web is. As long as you have internet connection, you'll be able to access TDM on the web from any computer. When on the web going to be released? That's the big bullet question, in the sense that that's what people are asking about all the time. Well, TDM on the web right now is currently in what's called a beta testing period, where we have folks out in the field that are running their tournaments on TDM on the web. Anyone is welcome to volunteer to use TDM on the web. I'll talk about that more as we get into our demo. But basically what we're looking for is good commentary, feedback, and whatnot, good experiences from the folks that are using TDM on the web in the field before we decide to make it more a generally used product. I'm not going to lie to you, there have been issues with TDM on the web where things haven't worked exceptionally well, which is the reason why we're holding off in releasing TDM on the web to the greater public. So once you have a better comfort level that TDM on the web is working well for everybody, we'll go ahead and make that announcement. So you access TDM on the web. Well, if you're looking at the screen right now, you're looking at the Tennis Link Tournaments homepage. And basically, TDM on the web has been built into the Tennis Link Tournament system. So no matter how you access the Tennis Link Tournaments homepage, you need to access it. There are a lot of different ways you can get to this page. You can go through your section or district website. You can go up to USTA.com and click on Tennis Link, or if you have this saved as one of your favorite places, you access it. Once you go ahead and access this page, you need to go ahead and log in. So there are a few different ways you can go ahead and log into Tennis Link. With mouse right now, you can see I'm circling the login link that's in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And then also in the middle of the screen, wherever you see a picture, there's a big box that says Create a USTA account, and underneath that, there's also a link that says Log into your USTA account. So you click on either of those links, it brings a page that looks like this. There'd be a page that you should be familiar with because, to sign up for this training, you had to have logged in to Tennis Link. So on the left-hand side, you're simply going to go ahead and put in your login credentials, okay, your password, and you're going to go ahead and click Log In. Once you do that, that brings you into the page. It looks roughly like this. Now, for the purposes of our demo, we're going to be logged in as me as we go through the demo. Basically you log in as, it's going to say, welcome so-and-so. And there are a lot of different ways you can go ahead and log in to TennisLink. You can either log in as a tournament director, you can log in as a referee, you can log in as a USTA staff person, or you can log in as a USTA member organization. Even log in as a player, but when you log in as a player, you might not see various administration privileges, which we're going to see here in a few moments, that give you access to TDM on the web. And this top area in red text is text you all have probably already seen. The top area is basically that we're calling out volunteers. We're looking for folks to help us use TDM on the web. So if you think you meet this criteria and you want to use a newer product, you want to give us your feedback and whatnot, then by all means, go ahead and read this information at your own leisure and then contact us accordingly. Also down below, there is the list of classes that we offer for TDM on the web. These classes are more or less the same. We run up to a week. We're up to about 118 classes as we've done since July 2012. But if you don't get information out of one class and you want to attend another one to learn a little bit more, or if it's been several months since you've attended one, by all means, sign up for as many classes as you'd like to learn more about the product. Now, if I go ahead and scroll down a little bit, log in as a tournament director, referee, USTA staff person, or member organization, you should see this administration area on the right-hand side of the screen. Underneath administration, you're going to see a link that says My Tournaments. When you go ahead and click on the link that says My Tournaments, it's going to bring you into a page that looks roughly like this. It's simply going to show you all the tournaments that you have administrative access over. So the date of the tournament, okay, name of the tournament, which is also a hyperlink to the sanction form, what events you're offering. You're going to see a column called TDM. In the future, when you want to access TDM on the web for a particular tournament, this is exactly what you're going to do. You're going to log in, access the My Tournaments area, and then click on the TDM link, and that's going to go ahead and open up another tab for your browser for TDM on the web. And when I click on it, this is the tab that's open. It's called this is TDM on the web for this particular tournament. Additionally, when you happen to be in a sanction form, so go ahead and go to a sanction form that I already have open, you have an area called This Tournament. Okay, in the This Tournament area, there's also going to be a link called TDM, so you can go and access TDM on the web for that particular tournament. Once I go ahead and click on TDM, it brings up TDM on the web. So let's go and get comfortable with this page in terms of the layout and the navigation. You'll hear referred to a lot of instances where I'll say that TDM on the web is no different than the TDM desktop application. Our charter for this project was not to reinvent the wheel. It was simply to take the TDM experience and bring it to an online world. So if you look at some of the screens here or the navigation, at the top you have various tabs such as events, groups, draws, site courts, okay, so on and so forth. Those are the same tabs that you had in the TDM desktop application. Before a specific function, simply go ahead and go to that tab and you'll be able to work within that tab. We're going to go ahead and take a look at each tab here in detail as we go through the demo. On the right side of the screen is your Player Explorer. Okay, the Player Explorer is where you house all the information for your players. We're going to take a look at that in more detail as we go through the demo, but for right now, I want to draw your attention to the little icon in the upper right-hand corner of the Player Explorer. You'll see that when I mouse over it, I get a little close screen tooltip that comes back. I go ahead and click on this little icon, it moves the Player Explorer out of the way, so that now I have the ability to see the middle part of the screen in more detail. Okay, if I ever wanted to go ahead and bring the Player Explorer back, simply go ahead and click on it, and it's brought back into view. This is right now, I'm going to go ahead and minimize the Player Explorer. Because this is a browser window, you have the ability to resize your screen. Okay, sometimes the font might be a little bit too small to read, so if you want to make it a little bit bigger, simply go ahead and click on the View menu. When I click on the View menu, I can go ahead and click on Zoom, then I can go ahead and click on Zoom. When I did that, the screen got a little bit bigger. If I go ahead and click on View and then Zoom again, and then Zoom again, it got even larger. So you have the ability to make the screen resolution whatever you desire. Okay. Now TDM on the web, because it's on the web and it's online, it still follows the same rules that we have outlined for TennisLink in terms of what browsers you can use to use the product. So right now, today, currently, USTA only supports the following browsers. They're Internet Explorer 8, Internet Explorer 9, and Firefox versions 4 higher. Okay, it's not to say that you couldn't use another browser. Okay, so for example, if you wanted to use Google Chrome, you could use Google Chrome, but what we're saying is that particular browser, there might be certain functions that don't work 100% or exactly within that browser. If you encounter any problems and you contact us for assistance, we're going to go ahead and insist that you use one of our supported browsers. Okay, we are in the process of making sure that TennisLink is compatible with Internet Explorer 10. That should be hopefully in the near future. You have the ability to use TDM on the web on an iPad 2 or an iPad 3 using the Safari browser on those devices. Okay, so TDM on the web is optimized to be able to use within those devices on the Safari browser. Okay. So right now we happen to be looking at the event screen. Okay, the event screen at the top, you're going to see a listing of all the events your tournament was sanctioned for, and at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a listing of that particular division that you have selected. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and resize this screen as well. If I go ahead and put my mouse in between these two areas, you'll see I'll get a little resize screen tooltip that comes back. I can hold down my left mouse button, and I go ahead and drag down below. You can see a green bar being created. When I do that, I now have the ability to see more of my events, so I can see more real estate on the screen accordingly. Likewise, if I wanted to see my event that I'm working with, I can go ahead and drag this back up to the top again. To do that, I can see more of the men's 35 singles as an example. Okay, TDM on the web has no concept of an upload or download. All information is available to you real time. Okay, so as players register online for your tournament and their respective events, they're going to appear in TDM automatically. You happen to be running a selection process tournament. After you perform the selection process, then the players are going to go ahead and show up in their events accordingly as well. Okay, so there's no need to upload or download anything. It's all real time. You still have now additional tools within the program, which we'll see as we go through the demo, to allow you to make information available to the public or not. Okay, so this top area that has a listing of all the events. You have several different buttons that appear at the top, such as create, edit, delete, and split event, and you also have a button called lock players. I'm not going to go into detail about what these buttons do because they perform the exact same functionality as a TDM desktop application. Create event allows you to create an event within TDM on the web. Edit event, if you ever needed to edit an event's properties, you can select an event, then click on edit event, and then edit as you need to. For example, if you wanted to change the draw type. Delete event, self-explanatory. Split event, what that allows you to do is to go ahead and split an event into multiple events. So for example, the men's 35 singles, I have 16 players here. I have the ability to go ahead and split this event into 2 events of 8 players each, okay, if I wanted to, as an example. The lock players, the way this button works is if you start making moves for players within TDM, for example, if you move a player from one division to the other, okay, you'd probably want to go ahead and lock your players because you don't want the system to refer to what happened during online registration. You've now made a change where the player could have registered for one division, but now you're putting him in another division. You want to turn off the system's ability to see what happened during online registration because now you've made those changes internally within TDM on the web. Okay, all these functions here the same way as it is in the TDM desktop application, and we're also going to have information for how you use these buttons once TDM on the web is released to the general public. It's going to be available in the help area here on the upper right-hand corner. Okay. In this case, I've selected the men's 35 singles, so down below we're seeing a listing of all the players who are in the men's 35 singles. By default, we're always going to show you the alternates area and the withdrawn players area now. You don't have to enable this view to be able to see these 2 areas. You have different buttons here that appear in the men's 35 singles. Okay, the add player, edit player, withdraw player, auto seed, and manual seed all work the exact same way as they do in the TDM desktop application. There's only a little subtle change that we have here with the add player button. So if I go ahead and click on the add player button, this one allows you to go ahead and add a player manually to your tournament. So for example, a player who might not have registered online. The only difference with TDM on the web in the TDM desktop application is that within the TDM desktop application, when you tried to add a player, there's also a little button here that said Create New. So then you clicked on that button that said Create New. It gave you fields to be able to create a new player from scratch. You know their first name, last name, all their contact information, so on and so forth, and that player would be in your tournament. Well, we've changed that in TDM on the web. We haven't gotten rid of the functionality. It's available in a different place. Okay, so where is it? Well, if I go back to the login screen that we saw earlier, okay, on this login screen, off to the right, there's an area or there's text here that reads, do you play a USTA program without a USTA membership? Okay, so if you have players who are foreigners, they're going to be playing in your tournament, those players aren't members of USTA, or if you happen to be running a non-sanctioned tournament on TennisLink, you have the ability to run non-sanctioned tournaments on TennisLink as well, and the players that play in those tournaments don't have to be members of the USTA, and those players still have the ability to go ahead and register online. If you happen to fit those scenarios, then the players need to go ahead and create accounts within the system. So a player would come in through this interface, you'd probably guide them initially, and when they do that, they'd go ahead and click on this Create Account button. The player clicks on this Create Account button, they're brought to a screen that looks like this. We're making sure that someone hasn't clicked on this button by mistake. So they click on this button and they come in here and they say, I am a USTA member, and they check this little circle. Next, it's going to come out of the screen. It's going to prompt them to, hey, you already have a USTA account. There's no reason for you to go ahead and create another one. Okay, here's how you go ahead and retrieve your information. Something to that effect. This option applies to team tests. We're not interested in that at the moment. But the third option here is I am new to TennisLink and I want to create a new account. This is what that foreign player, or that player who's not a member of the USTA, would go ahead and click, and they'd go ahead and click on Next. When they do that, the player then is brought to this screen that allows them to go ahead and create an account. Simply enter all the contact information. I put the stress on the player here because you as a tournament director or referee may not have all the information necessary to go ahead and complete the fields on this screen. First name, last name, street name, city, state, phone number, email address, then you can go ahead and choose a password. Basically what happens is after the player goes through this process, they are then in the system. Once they're in the system, if we go ahead and go back to TDM on the web, if you were to go ahead and click on Add Player, you'd then be able to go ahead and find the player through this interface. Okay. The only difference that we have on this screen that's different from TDM on the web as compared to the TDM desktop application, in this case, you can see we have a button that's called Fix Alternate Withdrawn. Okay? The way this button works is here, if you look at the left side of the screen in the players area, you'll see that I really can't see all the players at the bottom of this event. Okay? So if I go ahead and use my scroll bar here to go ahead and scroll down, okay, to be able to see the players at the bottom that I couldn't see earlier, okay, like Alex, Benjamin, so on and so forth. Okay? In the past, it was difficult to go ahead and bring some of these players into the alternates or withdrawn players area, because alternate and withdrawn players area was fixed, and you had the ability to have it float whenever you scrolled. Now you'll see when I'm moving my scroll bar, the alternates and withdrawn players area is kind of floating with me depending upon where I go. So even if I'm at the bottom here, okay, you have this ability within TDM on the web to drag and drop players between the players area, alternates area, and withdrawn players area, as well as being able to drag and drop players from one event. For example, this is the men's 35 singles, into another event. So I could go ahead and grab Matt Whitehead here and move him up to the men's 45 singles as an example. And the way you do that is to the left of each player's name, there's a little column of dots, and this is called the grip icon within the system. If I go ahead and hold down my left mouse button and I grab on that grip icon, you can see how I've sort of grabbed Matt Whitehead here. I can go ahead and drag Matt over to the alternates area into any little yellow box that gets created. Same thing down below. I can go ahead and move Matt into the withdrawn players area, okay, into any little yellow box that gets created. Once I let go of my mouse button, it's going to go ahead and put Matt in that respective area. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that at this point. I'm going to leave Matt alone. Okay. Before, the alternates and withdrawn player is sort of hard to move up top and drag them, so that's how we've created this floating concept. Okay. If I go ahead and scroll back up to the top and I go ahead and click this button that says Fix Alternate Withdrawn, now the alternates and withdrawn players are not going to float. If I go ahead and scroll down, you can see the alternates really didn't come down with me. Now, if I wanted to move Matt to the alternates, it can be a little bit more difficult. So that's how we introduced this floating concept. I'm going to talk about the Player Explorer. The Player Explorer is where we house all the information about a player. So I go ahead and click on a player. In this case, I'm going to select Stewart here. When I click Stewart, you can see that the little spinning icon is loading Stewart's information in the Player Explorer. Just give it a second for it to load the information. While it's loading, basically the Player Explorer still has the concepts of master info and this tournament, the two tabs that appear at the top. The master info tab is just a quick reflection of that player's information from the USTA National Database. These fields are read-only. You don't have the ability to go ahead and change the information that appears in these fields. Okay, if I go ahead and go to this tournament tab, the tournament tab is unique to this tournament, and you do have the ability to go ahead and overwrite the information that appears in certain fields. Okay, so if I go ahead and scroll down, I need to enter an office phone number or home phone number. Or down further, there are other fields that I have the ability to information into that are unique to this tournament. Okay, so you can enter information as you need to for these players. Now, the way these buttons work here, let's talk about them. The Sync with National button. This button works the same way as it did in the TDM desktop application. Basically, what this button does is when you have this tournament tab selected, if you were to go ahead and click Sync with National, it's going to overwrite anything that you might have put in these fields and replace it with whatever's in the USTA National Database. So if you went in and you typed in something for the home phone number, okay, and home phone number wasn't populated for this player in the national database, well, guess what? You just lost the home phone number now. Okay, so a lot of tournament directors don't use this feature because they think the information they have on hand for their players is a lot more current than what's in the national database, and I would tend to agree with them. Okay, the event button, the way this button works, is just another way to be able to go ahead and add a player to an event. So in this case, we have this player selected in the Player Explorer. I could now go ahead and select another event, okay, by clicking on it, at which point it will be highlighted, and I can go ahead and click on the Add to Event button, at which point the system would then add the player that I've selected in the Player Explorer to the event that I've selected as well. Customize button, the way this works is it allows you to go ahead and customize the information that you see in the Player Explorer. In this case, you have the ability to see both fields. If I didn't want to see the first name as an example, I have the ability to go ahead and drag it to the Do Not Display. Then I can go ahead and click on OK, at which point the first name is a field that wouldn't show in the Player Explorer, as an example. We just happen to have a little bug right now. That's why the first name is showing in the Player Explorer. We're working on solving that bug in terms of being able to customize the Player Explorer. But that's how that functionality works. Okay. The Add Player button, the way this button works is if you wanted to go ahead and add a player to your tournament, but not necessarily to an event, you have the ability to go ahead and click Add Player. When you do that, that brings back a listing of the search screen. You can have various criteria to find the player you want. Once you find them, they're going to be returned down in this list below. You click on them and then click on OK, at which point that player then would be added to this Player Explorer, not necessarily to an event. So some directors like to do that. Once the Player Explorer, or once the player is in their Player Explorer, they then go ahead and highlight the event, and then go ahead and click Add to Event to add that player to that event. I think that's a really long way to do it. You'd simply just want to go ahead and click on the event that you want to add a player to, and then click this Add Player button, at which point it adds the player automatically to that event, and then also to your This Tournament Player Explorer. But folks have a lot of different ways they like to go ahead and do things. Okay. The last button here is the Save button. The way the Save button works is if you go ahead and type in information in a field and you were not to hit Enter or Tab on your keyboard, you then have to go ahead and click the Save button to save whatever you typed in. You also have the ability to search for a player in your Player Explorer. If I go ahead and click Search for a player, again, that brings back that search screen. You're able to go ahead and search for the player you want accordingly by using this feature. Okay. Or you have this drop-down window here that lists all the players in alphabetical order. You can go ahead and click on this drop-down window and then quickly scroll to find the player you want to go ahead and look up accordingly. Okay. We go ahead and minimize our Player Explorer, and we're going to go ahead and continue on with our demo. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Group screen, which is the next tab in sequence. Now, the screen hasn't changed a whole lot. It basically offers the same functionality that it did in the TDM desktop application. So to quickly talk about some of the features that we have in the Group screen, when a tournament director first comes to this screen, generally what they do is they go ahead and click on the Generate Groups button. When they do that, they're going to see all the different canned options they have to go ahead and generate groups by. by city, by state, so on and so forth. Okay. Once you go ahead and choose your option and then click on OK, it goes ahead and creates your group for you. So in this, we've already created a city group here, and it's listing all the players from their various cities accordingly. The ability to delete all your groups. You can delete a group one at a time. You can edit a group one at a time, or go ahead and create custom groups. Okay, so for example, if one of the options under generate groups didn't apply to you, let's say, for example, an entire academy entered your tournament and you wanted to separate players out from that academy from playing each other in the first round of a tournament, you can go ahead and create a group for that. You'd call it Academy Group. That's what you'd name it, and go ahead and create the group accordingly. Okay. Once groups are created, if you needed to go ahead and add players to a group, the way you do that is go ahead and click on this Add Player button. Go ahead and click on this Add Player button. The system brings back a listing of all the players in this tournament in alphabetical order. Okay, and then have the ability to go ahead and add players to a group. So to add players to a group, just go ahead and click on players so they're highlighted, and you can go and click on the Add Group button. In order to select multiple players, hold down your Control key and go and select multiple players. If you wanted to select a range of players, in this case I've selected Carmen here, if I hold down my Shift key and click Manuela, now I've selected a range of players. So now if I wanted to go and add all these highlighted players to my group, simply click Add to Group, at which point all these players would be added accordingly. Okay, so that basically is the group screen. From the group screen, we're going to go ahead and go to the draw screen. And the two most busiest areas of the system happen to be the event screen and the draw screen. This is where you're going to spend the majority of your time, along with some scheduling screens depending upon how you schedule. But these are the busiest tabs that we have in the system. So on the event screen, when you first come to the screen, there's nothing to see because you have to go ahead and make a draw. If you've already made a draw, it's going to show it to you once you visit the draw screen. To go ahead and make a draw, go ahead and click on the Make Unmake Options button. You have different options you can go ahead and look at to go ahead and make the draw. In this case, I'm simply going to go ahead and choose to make this draw. Then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. When the system is going through the process of creating the draw for me, the draw has been made successfully. I go ahead and click OK. Go ahead and click OK. The system's going to go ahead and display the draw for me on my screen. Okay, here's the draw. Now, talk about the other buttons that we see here on the screen and why things appear in a highlight and whatnot. Let's talk about it. So in this case, we're looking at the men's 35 singles. If I go ahead and click on this drop down, I have the ability to toggle to different divisions of my tournament. If I click on this drop down, I have the ability to toggle to different to this draw. So, for example, if there was a consolation here, I would see it in this drop down. Or if there was a playoff, I'd also see it in this drop down. The zoom in, zoom out feature allows you to go ahead and see the entire draw within one snapshot. So if I go ahead and click on this button, I'm sorry, let me say that again. The zoom in, zoom out button allows you to go ahead and change your bracket lines so that they appear a little bit larger on the screen. So if I click on that one more time again, you can see these bracket lines look a little bit larger, so maybe the names are a little bit easier to read. We're only going to line 6 on the draw here. If I go ahead and click on it one more time, it goes back to its original view, and now you see the draw lines are a little bit smaller. Okay, so just a little bit more convenient if you wanted to see information a little bit more spread out. That's why you would use this zoom in, zoom out feature. Whereas the full view button, which I was alluding to earlier, this button allows you to see the entire draw within one snapshot. So go ahead and click on view. You see this is the entire draw. Okay, so if it was a 128 draw, you'd see it all on your screen. If you wanted to go ahead and close this view, you can go ahead and click close link, and it closes the full view button. Okay. Schedule multiple matches. There are many different ways to schedule within TDM on the web. This is just one of the many ways. Don't advocate that you have to use a certain method of scheduling your tournament. You're free to go ahead and choose whatever method best suits your purposes. But this feature does work a little bit differently in TDM on the web than it did in the TDM desktop application. Namely, in the TDM desktop application, what you had to do was hold down your control key. Then when you held down your control key, you went through and selected a lot of different matches. All the matches that got highlighted, you'd then go ahead and right-click on those matches and choose to schedule those matches at a common time. That doesn't happen in TDM on the web. Basically, in TDM on the web, when you want to schedule multiple matches, you'd go ahead and click on this little button. When you go ahead and click on this button, that brings back this multi-match properties window. Within the window, you have the ability to go ahead and schedule all of your matches at a common time for a specific round. In this case, this is a round of 16. These are all the matches that I have to play in the round of 16. If I want to go ahead and schedule these matches, I'm going to go ahead and check the boxes for the matches that I want to have scheduled. And choose the site that I want these matches to be scheduled at. Go ahead and choose the day. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose the match time. Now, when I go ahead and click on the drop down for match time here, you'll see where it says 8 o'clock a.m. All the times are shown hourly. It doesn't mean that I need to go ahead and play these matches on the hour. So, for example, if I wanted to play these matches at 8:30, I'm going to highlight the 2 zeros that correspond to 8 o'clock a.m. I'll type in a 30 and clear out of that cell. Now go ahead and click the schedule button. The system is going to go through the process of scheduling these matches manually at the site on this day at that time, and there's schedule. So one of the many ways you have to schedule, we're going to take a look at all the different ways here as we go through the demo. Okay, likewise, you have a lot of different ways you can go ahead and enter scores and results for your tournament. Okay, one of the many ways that folks like to use to go ahead and enter scores, or one of the easier ways, is this score entry button. If I go ahead and click on the score entry button, what happens is the system is going to go ahead and display this draw in a table view. And some find this is a little easier to be able to go ahead and enter results this way. You don't have to click every match. You don't have to click a lot of different times. This basically limits the amount of clicks you have to do. So you can see in this case, we're looking at the men's 35 singles. If I wanted to, I can go to a different event. Say I can go to a different part of the draw, or I can go to a different round. Or if I want to go back to the draw, I just go ahead and click on the draw button. But here, I can go ahead and quickly choose a winner of a match. Okay, I can quickly go ahead and key in a score. It allows you to go ahead and go through this very quickly. Once you go through and enter all your results and your scores, you then do have to go ahead and click on this Save button to save your data. That's a little bit different from the TDM desktop application. Score entry exists in TDM desktop as well, but as you type in the information, it saves it for you automatically. Whereas in TDM on the web, you do have to click on this Save button. Once you can click on the Save button, you can then go ahead and click back on the draw. So I clicked on the draw button, and then I'll go ahead and refresh the screen, and then it will show you the draw here in a second. Okay. Continue talking about the different buttons. The display options button here, when I go ahead and click on it, this is where you're going to go to decide to make your draw visible on the web for your public to see. So when you're ready to post your draws, come into display options. All the events that you've made draws for will be listed here on the screen. You can then go ahead and click on the Visible on Web checkbox for the event that you want to have published. And you go ahead and click on OK. Okay. Draw properties works the same way as it did in the TDM desktop application. Namely, you have the ability to choose different options for appearing on the draw. Okay, you can choose different data options that appear here. You can decide what panel opens up if match is unscheduled, different fonts and colors, and different printing options as well. You're ready to go ahead and print your draw. You can go ahead and click on the Print Options button. When I go ahead and click on the Print Options button, I see a screen that comes back that asks me what I want to do. Do I want to go ahead and print just this draw, print all my draws, or print just selected draws? Choose the different sections of the draw you want to print, and then choose how many matches and rounds you want printed on a page as well. I'm going to go ahead and accept all the default options. When I go ahead and click on Continue, what's going to happen is you're going to get a little pop-up window that comes up. So you have to go ahead and allow for pop-ups from TennisLink. Okay, as you allow for pop-ups from TennisLink, you'll then see this draw in a PDF document. Okay, it's in a PDF document. You have the ability to go ahead and click on the printer icon to print this document, or you have the ability to go ahead and save it to your computer, and then you can email or whatnot as you need to. Okay, you go ahead and close the print option here. Okay, so we talked about many different ways to enter scores and schedule. You can see right now my mouse looks like a little arrow icon. When I put it in between a match, okay, it changes to a little pointer icon. If I go ahead and click on that match, a match properties window that comes up. So this is another way you have the ability to go ahead and schedule matches one at a time. Okay, so I can go ahead and come up to the match schedule tab. I can go ahead and choose a site. I can go ahead and indicate a day, and I can go indicate a time, and then click on OK, at which point this match would be scheduled. Also, I can go to the match results tab, and on the results tab, I can go ahead and enter results for this match as well. Okay, and click cancel. When you go ahead and click on match, the last match you left off on is always going to be highlighted in yellow, so you know where you left off in case you forgot where you clicked. Okay. You still have the ability to go ahead and change a player on a draw line. So if I go ahead and put my mouse over a player's name and then I right-click my mouse, I then have an option to change player on draw line. I can go ahead and click on this option and then choose a different player that I want to have appear on this particular draw line. Okay. And lastly, you have the ability to find the player very, very quickly in the draw. Okay. In this case, if I go ahead and open up the Player Explorer, if I have the This Tournament tab selected, what's going to happen is that player is going to appear in a gray highlight on the draw screen within TDM. They don't appear in a gray highlight on the tournament homepage. They don't appear in any printed draws this way. But if you had a 128 draw and you wanted to quickly find a draw line a player was on, you go to the This Tournament tab, bring up that player, and then quickly scroll through the draw, and you'll be able to see that player in a gray highlight that you're looking for. That's an example. Okay. Let's kind of continue on. The Site Court Screen is the next tab within TDM on the web. The Court Screen is where you go to indicate what sites you're going to have for your tournament, and then how many courts you're going to have, and then from what time to what time you're going to have those courts. Okay, so when you go ahead and click on the site drop-down here, there's always going to be at least one site in this drop-down, and it's the site your tournament was synced to. Okay, if you ever needed to go ahead and add additional sites, what you do is go ahead and click on the Search Sites button. When I do that, that brings back a screen that allows me to go ahead and search for the site I want. So I put in my criteria, then I go ahead and click on Search. So go ahead and bring the search results back down below. Simply choose your site from the search results, and then click on Add Site, at which that site then is added to this drop-down for the list of sites in your tournament. Now, for some reason, if you went and you searched sites and you couldn't find the site you were looking for, you also have the ability to go ahead and create a site. So when I go ahead and click on Create Site, you get the information for the site that you want to create. Once you go ahead and create it one time, it's always going to be available in any other tournaments that you'd like to run by searching for it accordingly. Okay. Go ahead and indicate how many courts you're going to have and from what time to what time you're going to have those courts. That functionality doesn't work any differently than it did in the TDM desktop application. Namely, you'd choose your site, you'd go ahead and click on the New button. When you click on the New button, that brings you to a screen that allows you to define your court specification. You determine what time your courts are going to start, what time your courts are going to end, how many courts you have available, and then click on OK. Once that, it's going to go and list that for you here accordingly. It's going to show you a graphic representation of how many courts you have from what time to what time as well. So here, we're going to go ahead and go to the Schedule Planning screen. This planning screen and the scheduling screen are only really used if you're using the auto scheduling component of TDM. Okay, if you're manually scheduling and whatnot, you really don't need to go ahead and pay attention to these areas. But just to quickly explain how these areas work, at the very top of the screen, you have your capacity planning area. These are various graphs that let you go ahead and see how you're scheduling. In layman's terms, basically, the red indicates available, the blue indicates planned. If the blue bar oversees your red bar, well, then you've planned something incorrectly. Okay, it's not going to be able to schedule it accordingly. The event planning area here has a listing of all the events that you've made draws for. Okay, we'll show you all the players in that event and then various matches in each round that you need to go ahead and play. In this case, we already manually scheduled several matches. That's why it's showing a value here already. But in this case, let's imagine we hadn't manually scheduled any matches. It's telling us we have 8 matches that we have here to play. I then come down this event planning detail area, and I decide where I want to play those 8 matches. Basically, what day I want to play those 8 matches on, okay, and at what site. So I have a little bug in the system right now. It should really be showing 8 of 8. I'm just going to go ahead and change it for our purposes right now. But basically, you type in your value here accordingly, and you have to go ahead and click on that Save button, this little save button that appears there. Once you do that, you have now effectively planned round 1 for this event. You continue on this path. I'm going to go ahead and click round 2. So I have 4 matches to play in round 2. I want to play those on day 1 at the same site. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight 0, type in a 4, click on Save. When I do that, it's going to go from 0/4 to 4/4. So I actively plan round 2. You continue on that way for all your events, for all your draws. Right side of the screen, it also shows you your planning summary. It just quickly tells you how many matches you have planned for a given day at a given site. And again, we realize there's a little bit of a bug now that we're going to fix. Really should say 8 here. From the schedule planning screen, we go to the scheduling screen. The scheduling screen is where we go ahead and commit everything that we planned on the schedule planning screen. Okay, so on this screen, okay, we have the ability to go ahead and look at a facility. Okay, if you haven't planned anything at Club Continental, I go ahead and go to Mission Hills Country Club. It shows all the events that we've planned here accordingly. Okay, so we've planned on 1 and round 2. Okay, in this case, round 1 has already been scheduled. Okay, you can see that it shows 8 matches are scheduled, 0 unscheduled, because we manually schedule those matches. But a lot of times, what folks do is they basically plan everything. They don't first manually schedule and then come in here. Although you could do that if you wanted to. But basically, when they come in here, they'd simply go ahead and click on Schedule All, and it would schedule all these events accordingly. Schedule events allows you to schedule an event at a time after you select it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the men's 35 singles so it's highlighted. And then when I go ahead and click Schedule Event, it's going to ask me what time I want to schedule this event at or after. And click on OK. When I click on OK, this is going through the process of scheduling these matches for me accordingly. There's a status bar letting me know 4 matches are scheduled. I can go close that screen. When I go and close that screen, it's going to go ahead and refresh here in a second. It's going to show that all of our matches here are planned accordingly. Then below it shows you a little coordinability graph letting you know what's planned as well. Okay. From the scheduling screen, we go ahead and go to the check-in list. Checklist in terms of the feedback we got in terms of what this is used for. It's to indicate that a player's got in their T-shirt in their tournament. Excuse me. So on the check-in list, you have this checkout area and you have check-in area. You simply want to go ahead and check a player in. So in this case, if I wanted to go ahead and check in Carlton Anderson here, I can hold that little grip icon. See, I'm dragging Carlton over, and I can put him in any little yellow box that gets created. I don't have to go to the bottom. I don't have to put him in a specific alphabetical order. Just any little yellow box that gets created. And when I do that, and I let go of my mouse button, it's going to alphabetize them accordingly, and that's an indication that Carlton now has got in his T-shirt. On the check-in list, we're going to go ahead and go to Tournament Desk. The Tournament Desk, you have the ability to use the TDM on the web as well as you did in the TDM desktop application. It's a very nifty feature in the sense that if you have a monitor at your Tournament Desk, you can turn it around. And this way, players can quickly see, what time they're scheduled to play, who's on a certain court, how they've been out on a court, who's chinned thus far, so on and so forth. So in this case, go ahead and check in a match. Let's say Stewart is playing against Ernesto here. And double-click on this match. So now go ahead and bring up a tab. This Match Properties tab. I can go ahead and check in Stewart. I check in Ernesto. Again, I'm putting these players on court number 1. I'm going to give balls number 1. Go ahead and click on OK. Do that. It's going to move that match from that matches area. It's going to put that match in the matches in progress area up top. Okay, the clock is started on these players. They're on court number 1. Okay, we gave them balls number 1, and now we also show you the round that's just taking place in as well. So, parents or interested spectators come up to you in your tournament desk and ask, hey, who's on what court? How long have they been out on court? You get the monitor, and it'll give them that information. Down below as well, as players check in, let's say Alex here is checked in for his 8:30 match, but Richard hasn't checked in. You can click on this match here, and then I can go ahead and check in Alex as an example. I'm not going to check in Richard. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. See that Alex here has moved up to the very top of the list in the matches area, because Alex has checked in. Okay, first priority over any other matches that checked in, as an example. Okay, so it'll change your order based on what players you're checking in accordingly. From this screen, you also have the same buttons here at the top, such as match information, suspend, resume, play, and then rain day that work the same way in the TDM desktop application. And you can also go straight to score entry from this screen as well. So if I can click on the score entry tab here, it'll allow me to go ahead and enter scores accordingly. Or I can go ahead and click on match, for in this case Stewart against Ernesto. If I go ahead and click on match, I get the match property screen that comes up, and I have the ability to go ahead and enter results right from this screen as well. Off on the right, at the very top, you have a help link. This is where we're going to keep all of our written documentation as well as our video tutorials about how to use various areas of the program. The reports link is the same as TDM desktop application. You have all the same reports you had access to previously. The publish options area is where you have the ability to hide various tabs that appear on your tournament homepage. The ability to hide your applicants list or your alternates list or your competitors. If you ever wanted to hide those areas, this is where you go ahead and go to do that. And so you have a link that allows you to go to the sanction form. The reason you have a link that allows you to go to the sanction form is because the sanction form is where you're going to go ahead and do any tournament messaging going forward. So once you have access to sanction form, you go to the General Info tab. When I scroll down, you're going to see this new area called Tournament Messages. And this is akin to the same functionality you had in the TDM desktop application where you had the ability to go ahead and create messages. Okay, if you wanted to go ahead and create a new tournament message, you simply go ahead and click on the link that says Create New Tournament Message. When I do that, that opens up a little pop-up window that allows me to go ahead and create the new tournament message. Now, there's only some simple formatting that's going to be allowed going forward. Okay, UCA has made a decision. They're not going to allow for free-form HTML. So you no longer have the ability to type in extravagant fonts or make them really large or create scrolling ticker bars or anything of that nature on your tournament homepages. You can only use what's available to you here. So basically, headline, you can type in whatever you want for a headline in this field. You can bold certain words in the headline, and you choose to make your headline a certain color, either black, blue, or red. Okay. Type in a link to a different website, and you can also go ahead and type in your message body, and you can bold certain words within your message body. The link works here is whatever you type in for the link on the tournament homepage, at the end of the message body, there's going to be words that say more info, and the words that say more info are the hyperlink. So if you go ahead and click on the word to say more info, it's going to take you to whatever link that you have listed here in the link field. Okay? So you go ahead and create a new message. You can see I have some messages that have already been created. The ability to make your messages public or not right away. Okay, so if you wanted to make your messages public, simply go ahead and check on the box to have them show up on the tournament homepage. If you didn't want your messages to be public, simply go ahead and uncheck them. So have the ability to go ahead and make all your messages public at one time. If you want to go ahead and work on your messages further, you can go ahead and select the message. In this case, I've selected test message 1. Now go ahead and click on the edit button to edit it, or I can go ahead and click on the delete button if I wanted to go ahead and delete this message. I'll have the ability to go ahead and move this message up or down, okay, by using these buttons here that appear accordingly. Lastly, you also have the ability to move these messages to another tournament, so you don't have to go ahead and recreate every single message. If you already typed it once for one tournament, you can go ahead and click on this link to move that message to another tournament. Basically asks you to go ahead and enter the ID of the tournament you want to go ahead and move it to. Once you enter the ID, you go ahead and click on search. It brings back the search results down below. If that is a tournament you want to go ahead and move the messages to, simply go ahead and click on that tournament, and then it moves the message accordingly. Okay, so a lot of information about TDM on the web. Okay, what I'm now going to do is go ahead and open it up for a little bit of a question and answer session. If you're not going to be asking a question, I'd like for you to go ahead and keep your phone on mute. This is a courtesy to other attendees, because invariably we always hear some background noise, radio playing or music or whatnot. So if you're not asking a question, go ahead and keep your phone on mute. I'm going to go ahead and unmute all the lines centrally. Give me 1 second.
The lead has unmuted your line.
Muted your line earlier, you probably want to go ahead and unmute your line as well. To unmute your own line, go ahead and press #6 on your keypad, and we're going to go ahead and open up for any questions, comments, and or feedback about what you've seen thus far.
Does it work the same way on a Mac as it does an IBM or Windows program?
And that is one of the reasons why we went to TDM on the web, because we wanted to be able to allow you to use it on different operating systems. So the answer to that question is yes. You can use TDM on the web on a Mac. What we're going to ask you to do, though, is use Firefox on a Mac, because on a Mac itself, you can't use Safari. Where on an iPad 2 or 3, you can use Safari browser to use TDM on the web.
Thank you. I have a question with regards to the draws. Was there I missed the part out where you would enter the seeds.
Seeds basically are done from the event screen. Okay, if I go ahead and go back to the event screen, Once you go ahead and select an event, you have the ability to either auto-seed or manual seed, and the functionality works the exact same way as it did in the TDM desktop application.
Okay. Got it.
Questions, comments, and or feedback? Other questions, comments, and or feedback?
I'm running a tournament this summer, and we are at the spot where I need to probably work on the first portion of it, which would be the sanction form. Is that the first place where you begin?
Yes. In order to even get to TDM on the web, you have to create a sanction form. So whether the tournament is a sanctioned tournament or a non-sanctioned tournament, once your tournament gets approved, then you'd have access to TDM on the web. But if you're running a tournament, whether you're using TDM on the web or the TDM desktop application, that is your first step. You have to go in and create a sanction form for it.
And if you have a tournament number, then you've already done that, right?
That's
okay.
Any other questions, or go ahead and call it a day? Okay. There will be many questions as we go along. So with all things TennisLink, whenever you have a question with any of the functionality in TennisLink, be it TDM, desktop, TDM on the web, what's being used more frequently, TennisLink tournaments, leagues or whatnot, you always want to make sure you email team@usta.com. That's your support line for any questions you have about TennisLink, even TDM on the web. So go ahead and email that email address accordingly when you need to. With that said, I want to go ahead and thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend this demo. I do hope the information presented to you was useful, and we'll look forward to talking to you all either via email or on a future demo in the future. With that said, thank you everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.